I am determined to break this streak of bad luck that I've had with comic book orders. Hey there, today I have a comic book unboxing video, and in this video I'm going to open up an order that I placed with G-Mart Comics earlier in July 2022. I feel like sort of the basketball player that is maybe having an off night or maybe had a few bad games in a row, and the best way to break out of a slump is to keep shooting. So that's what I'm planning on doing. I'm going to keep collecting comic books. I'm going to keep ordering them. I'm going to keep unboxing. I'm going to keep sharing those experiences here on my channel so that you can hopefully learn from me, learn from my mistakes, and also just kind of see what orders are like from different sources. So to kind of mix things up a little bit, I'm going to open up this order that I placed with G-Mart Comics. Now, the interesting thing for me with this order is G-Mart has not just new releases, but also has back issues. Maybe not to the scale of something like Mile High Comics or even Midtown Comics, but there are back issues that are available. And they also have a pre-order subscription service and so forth. So it's a fully operational online comic book store. And I've ordered from them in the past and had pretty good success. But the question that I have is, when you're ordering books, they don't necessarily list grades for the books. They do on occasion. Maybe if there's a really old back issue, they'll list it as VF. But for the most part, it's just the book, it's just the price. And what they do is if they have a certain quantity, and I don't know what that is, it's hidden to us as buyers. But if, let's say, they had 100 books and it was available at a certain price, as the quantity depletes, their price will change. It will go up. So if in this example of having, let's say, 100 books for sale, once it gets down to, and I'm just purely speculating what the numbers are, but let's say it gets down to 20 or 10, it might go from a $4.99 book to $7.99 or $9.99, depending on their algorithm and how they set it up in their store. I don't have any insights into that, but just as the quantity decreases, the price increases. Now, what I like about that is, as a buyer, it tells me kind of which books I think are selling out that have a low quantity. I certainly don't necessarily like the increased price, but I understand if they get hit with a flood of orders on a particular book, they kind of want to protect themselves a little bit and save maybe the last 5 to 10 issues of that book and sell them at a higher price point, maybe to recover or something. It's just to help protect them in case the market sets a particular book at a higher price when they've just listed it as cover price. So that's kind of the uniqueness of the store, and it's something to pay attention to. But essentially, they just color code the book. So if a book is green, then you can order multiple copies of it at that price that they've listed the book, and then it'll eventually like turn yellow or red or pink or something. And again, then maybe it's a limit of one per customer, and it really just kind of depends on how they do it. But the big question for me is, if I reach back into the 70s and 80s and 90s and I'm buying a book that they've listed at a particular price, what grade is that book in? I assume that everything is near mint because that's what most of the stores list their books at. I feel like by default it's near mint, and then if it's specified at F or VF, then I know to expect that book in that particular condition. So I'm going to go ahead and unbox this order, and I've got books that cross a few different eras, and I may take a couple of these out and grade them. We might see just kind of if they're truly near mint. That's what we're about to find out. And then please stick around to the very end. I'll show you what I paid for these books, compare the cost of the books against current fair market value, and the age of some of the books are old enough where they probably have some values slabbed as well. So we'll go ahead and look at those too. So let's get to the unboxing. Okay, so here is the order from G-Mart, packaged in a nice comic book appropriately shaped cardboard box. Can't wait to dig in here and take a look at the comics. So let's get this opened up. All right, so here is the order from G-Mart. Had a nice box full of packing peanuts, which is great. They do have a bag and board service, so each of those, and I actually choose the Silver Age bag and board. That's my preferred size for bagging and boarding comic books, because then I can use the same size bag and board for all of my books. I don't collect Golden Age, but from Silver Age to current, they all have a uniform look and feel. So what's nice is when you compare this to Things from Another World, where they make you pay for the bag and board, and it's a really flimsy modern bag and board that I end up having to replace anyway because they put the TFOS sticker on the back and that presses into the books. With G-Mart, you are paying for the bag and board service. However, they use, I don't know if it's the same bag and boards that I use, but it's the same size. So so unless there's some sort of damage from tape or something, I can just actually keep them. It's one of the few places where, unless I want to put a full back in there, I don't have to replace these. Now, they do charge you, I think it's 12 cents per book for the Silver Age, but I don't mind paying that, especially because I don't have to replace it. I can just take the comic out, grade it, put it right back in the same bag and board. All right, so I think, yeah, there's one outer bag. I'll take that out. So really nice, very minimal tape used because they use that outer bag, basically just one piece of tape, kind of keeping it all together, bunch of packing peanuts, and let's see what we got here. So as I mentioned, it is sort of a mixture of different comics from different eras, and I want to see if the condition of the books sort of hold up. So the first one that I ordered is a brand new book, Grimm #1, and this is the foil edition. And some of the this part it is on the bag, so this is something I may end up replacing after saying I wouldn't, but I think it's just because this was on the top and laying face down in the box, it looks like there's some dirt here. But as you kind of slide up the book, you can see that it's on the bag there. But this is going to get a lot of glare with the foil, and I'm gonna probably have to wear some gloves to take it out and grade it. But for the most part, this looks pretty nice, pretty good so far, and that's a brand new book. Now, again, kind of a mixture of different things. This is Wonder Woman 167, and I picked this up because it is an Adam Hughes cover. He did a great run of Wonder Woman covers, and I track a lot of different runs of different, either just runs of comic books or runs of artists, and so I tracked this run of Adam Hughes cover Wonder Woman, and what I noticed is G-Mart had this available. So I'll show you what I paid for these. I didn't pay cover price necessarily, but again, there's some sneaky ways on the internet that are not named eBay where you can find back issues, and G-Mart is one of those. Again, it doesn't have, you know, that broad or wide of a selection as some of the other stores have, but they do have back issues. I do see a couple of spine ticks, one right there, pretty significant color breaking tick. Maybe wouldn't get the 9.8 necessarily, but certainly in that 9 to 9.4 range at first glance. Now this book I bought from G-Mart in the past. This is Black Cat #1. They must have thousands of these. These are 99 cents. And I bought 3 more because in a 9.8, I'll show you kind of what the value is, but I want to guess it's somewhere around $50 to $60, maybe a little bit more. So I figured for $1, it's worth it. I grabbed a couple of these that I thought were 9.8 candidates in the last G-Mart order that I placed, and I sent those off to CGC as part of my pre-screen, so we'll have to see how those do. But it's sort of a staple. It's like every time I place an order with G-Mart, I just go and add a few of these to the cart until they're sold out or no longer 99 cents. But just a fantastic J. Scott Campbell cover. You can't beat that. Just 99 cents. Amazing. So and again, it speaks to Campbell fans, Black Cat fans, Marvel Comics fans, 9.8 fans, if they are, but it's a extremely, extremely low risk gamble, and hopes to get these in a 9.8. All right, Classic X-Men #8, and again, there was no condition listing with this, so it was just Classic X-Men #8, direct, and you just purchase it for the price. There was really nothing else to it. Great Arthur Adams covers for these Classic X-Men books from the mid to late 80s. And these were the X-Men books that I collected and read as a kid alongside the current run of X-Men. So instead of going back and, looking at X-Men 94 and up, I would buy these off the newsstand, cover price for $1. And you'd get great brand new cover art from Art Adams. So I was instantly an Art Adams fan. And then you're reading those great classic X-Men stories from Chris Claremont. So yeah, at first glance, looks to be pretty good. Again, I wouldn't say it would be 9.4. They look to be just, at first glance in the 9 to 9.4 range. But maybe they're pressable up to maybe 9.6 or something like that. But high grade, absolutely high grade, great colors and everything. So again, just another different way to look at back issues. So far so good. And again, just coming off of that really horrific Midtown order, these books are in great shape, well packaged, kind of what I would expect to see. Now, this is interesting to me that we're going to go way back to Fantastic Four 178, sitting there just listed as a back issue. Now, again, this looks to be pretty badly... Here, I'll take it out of the bag and board too, just to kind of show you. This looks to have, I think, what I would typically see in sort of the VF range or VF space. Really bad creasing at the top here. And there you go, right in the light. So that would need to be pressed out. But pressing candidate, a little bit of color break there. And then up and down the spine, spine ticks, typically what you would see in sort of a back issue bin. There's really nothing special here about the condition. A crease there as well, right there. So I feel like even though there's not necessarily a condition listing, this is probably, without a clean and press, in maybe a fine or fine plus sort of range. To me, this sort of book screams a 6.5, maybe a 7, but a nice clean and pressing candidate for sure. And then when I was looking at Fantastic Four back issues, I noticed they also had 182. Same sort of thing, just kind of at first glance seems to be in that sort of 6 to 7 range, crease up and down there. So there are some pressable defects. Unfortunately, this one has a bad, I don't even know if that's a crease. It's almost like just yeah, it is a crease. I was going to say it's almost like one of those printer issues, but no, it's badly creased on the cover. Like, you can imagine this was completely folded over at one point. So again, this would be fun to experiment on and either put it in a humidity tank or give it direct steam to try and get that crease out, because it goes from edge to edge all the way up there. So that would be kind of an interesting one to try. Unfortunately, there's enough color breaking spine ticks that I'd have to question whether or not it's even worth pressing. But with creases that bad, that's when you kind of dip into the 4 to 5 type range. So then you're like, are these dollar bin books at this point? So that's kind of tough. But I wanted to make a purchase from G-Mart and buy some of these older issues just to kind of see what I can expect. And they don't grade the books clearly, other than it wasn't marked with any specific grade, so it is what it is. Ironheart number 5. This one, no real major key here other than it is the continuation of Riri Williams' first solo series. It's just an issue in that run. So I wanted to pick up number 5. I believe it was the only back issue that they had of the Ironheart series at the time. Looking at it in the bag and board, I can kind of see right there by the light. Sorry for the glare, but there's a little bit of a crease there, so it may not be a full 9.8 candidate. Might be in a true 9.4 range or even a 9.2. But just anything Riri at this point. We saw her officially in the Wakanda Forever trailer. We know she's going to be there. We know she's going to be a player. Speculation that she's going to put on sort of her Mark I armor, probably working with Shuri to put that together. I'm a big Riri Williams Ironheart fan. As an Iron Man fan, I'm very interested to see where that goes, so I'm just grabbing as many books of hers as I can. And let me rearrange some of these, just to go in a particular order. Star Wars 48. This is the first, this volume 1. This is a book that I did not own, and I am curious to see the condition on this. Again, just sitting there listed as a back issue. It does have some wrinkling, which again, if I see that, I'm like, great, that's pressable then. we could get that out for sure. Spine looks to be okay, slightly miswrapped, but that sometimes helps protect the book. But some spine ticks here and there. So this is definitely a pressing candidate. Minor color breaks right in there. Not too bad. Could probably use a gentle cleaning on the back. And then this would have to be attacked pretty significantly with some steam there to get that little crease out on the corner. But all in all, not too bad. You know, probably in a 7.5 to 8 range. A little bit of streaking there that would be fun to try and correct. So yeah, this one, from the looks at it, these are some things that I could probably take care of with a nice clean and press. Probably off-white to white pages too, but just kind of surprised that they're just sitting there online at this point. You know, again, this isn't a major Star Wars key, but when you're talking about books from the 70s and 80s, just sitting there online for a few bucks. And even though this has defects, they are pressable. I feel like it's just it's a higher quality than you'd find on, you know, randomly on eBay anyway. So it's worth a gamble, worth a shot. Last two books, right from my childhood, just probably taken right out of my hands as a kid. Transformers #7 is the first one. This one is really dirty, so that's disappointing, but again, would be fun to try and clean up and just see how well a wet cleaning could get some of that dirt out. So the dirt alone is probably knocking this down into the 6 or 7 range. Spine looks to be decent. You know, if all things were perfect, maybe this is an 8.5, maybe it's an 8. Probably around an 8, but then with all the dirt, maybe a 7.0. So that's probably what I would give it, is maybe either a 6.5 or a 7 with it as a cleaning and pressing candidate. I just merged cleaning and pressing into one word. All right, and then the last book was a value pick that I made a while back, and just an all-around great classic Transformers cover, and this is Transformers #5. So I talk about this a lot, about how I find a book that I want, and then I kind of build an order around it. And as I was doing my research for the value pick, I clicked into G.I. Joe and Transformers, and when I did this, I saw that they had back issues all the way to issue 5. And then I'm like, this is just a fantastic and often homaged cover. Transformers #5, let's take this out and see what condition this is in. So when I see a book like this, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to jinx myself, but the spine definitely has a little bit of a crease, but if you notice, no spine ticks, no color breaks, a little bit of softening on the corner, right? That's like, hey, I'm a 9.6 corner, come look at me. But the spine looks really, really nice. A little bit of, right there in the price box, there's some dimpling. I mean, it definitely needs a press. I wouldn't send this in as is. A little bit of, again, just enough softening at the corner where I'm like, oh, that might prevent it from getting the 9.8. Definitely pressable, though. And the back looks okay, but here's where we're starting to see some of the spine ticks right in there in the light. Yep, there's a couple. You can see right in there. A few more down the spine. But hopefully with some humidity, maybe those kind of pop out. They're not color breaking though. They're just sort of in there, and it's possible just because with the sort of off-white or even creamy or peach type that's in this ad, that maybe that kind of gets hidden. This is probably the worst one right there, that end of the light right there. That's that one. Kind of weird that the ad is also a finger. That's the finger in the ad, that's my finger. Ad, finger, okay. Anyway, definitely consider this to be high grade regardless. That corner, it's almost like there's extra paper. It's not really a tear. So we'd have to see what CGC does with that. Right now, without a press, it's probably a 9. But I think that with a nice clean and press, it probably could be buffed up to at least a 9.2, maybe 9.4, possibly. But this was sort of the centerpiece of the order. So I'm really, really happy to have this back in my collection, and kind of went through and grabbed a bunch of other back issues, and again, just to kind of see, you know, what conditions are we dealing with. So let me show you what I paid for these books, and then we'll kind of play around with those conditions if I were to send these into CGC and see if they have any value. Okay, so here is this order that I placed with G-Mart Comics back on July 8th, 2022. The total for the order was $90.15. So the bag and board service that I talked about Was $4.20 for those, but it was no tax, no shipping. And I believe that free shipping on Gmart is $75 and up, I think. So you may want to check that out, but I always try and unlock free shipping where I can because it really helps cut down on the cost per book. So what I do is I take the $4.20 and I distribute that across each book in the order. It was a 12-book order. And then if my math is correct after the distribution, then the $90.15 total cost is the sum of these books should match the invoice, and then I know that my math is correct. Now, from a fair market value perspective, comparing it just the raw books, it was a loss of $3.55 on the books just raw. Again, to me, the centerpiece was that Transformers #5. It currently has a fair market value of about $15. I paid about $15 for it. So paying fair market value in a high grade, I didn't mind for that particular book because I really wanted to secure it. A couple of the other larger losers here. Star Wars 48, I paid $15. It's an $8 book. And Transformers 7, I paid $12.35, and the fair market value is $5.47. To me, it was worth paying a little bit more because I was hoping that maybe they just show up and they're automatically 9.4s or maybe even pressing candidates to bump to 9.6 or 9.8. Obviously, we looked at some of the books, we graded them. That was not the case. That's all right. It was worth the gamble. It ended up kind of evening out. For the most part, it was kind of a break-even order. Ironheart #5 is a good example. I paid $4.34 for that book, and it has a fair market value of over $9. So that was a gain of $4.85. Lost a bit on the FF182. Certainly lost some on the FF178. The Black Cat book is always kind of weird. When I added the bag and board service, then the cost for each of those bumped up to $1.34. Fair market value of that book is about $4, so I don't mind paying the 99 cents or the 99 cents plus the bag and board fee for that book. As you can see, very small, modest gain of $2.64. The Wonder Woman 167 was also kind of a break-even book, and then the big winner here was Grimm #1, the foil. I paid cover price, essentially. It was $5.99 plus that bag and board fee, and it has a fair market value currently of $14.14, so I was happy to find that book for cover price. I did pre-order a number of Grimm books. I've seen that one sort of take off, not to the extent of like an 8 Billion Genies has. And I've heard kind of mixed reviews on Grimm. Like a lot of people say maybe it leans more towards Berserker in terms of print run, collectability. And then, of course, those that have a big investment in Grimm are saying it's the next Something is Killing the Children. I just hope that it's a great story. There's great Jenny Frison covers on that one. A lot of different variants like the foil that I got. So I just wanted to get a few in case it does take off, and was really happy to find that book for cover price. Now, if we want to go ahead and just play around with the grades here, I'm going to pretend that all of these books were near mint because they really weren't specified to be any other grade, and look and see at some of the CGC values here. And if I were to send all of the books that did have a CGC value in at a 9.4, again, it would have been a break even. I'd just be kind of wasting my time to get my money back. There are some that have value in a 9.4. The FF178 is $48. Transformers #5, $69 in a 9.4. So again, even at that $15 cost, that was a good value pickup, according to the numbers and the values. Same goes for Transformers 7. I don't believe that one's a 9.4. But again, just in theory, when I'm placing the order, that's kind of what I'm hoping for. And then, of course, just for fun, let's see what this order would top out at if all of these books were a 9.8. There we go. So now in a 9.8, all the values should update here. And then the CGC value total for the books in here would be $966.66 worth of comics, with the FF182 jumping way out ahead in a 9.8 at $336. Transformers 7 actually jumping ahead of 5, which is surprising to me, at almost $200, whereas 5, and it could just be because there's more quantity and it's more, more often traded, let's say. So that one's $154. And even Grimm #1 that just came out, that foil in a 9/8 is $124. So to me, that was like, okay, let's get that one. But with the foil covers, more likely to have scratches and things on those books. So, buyer beware on that one as well. But again, just to kind of take a look and see kind of what I was dealing with and what I was targeting if these books were all 9/8. But I would say in general, it's probably more or less like a break-even type of order. I'm really happy to get a couple of these books, the Grimm #1, Transformers #5. Just thrilled to add those books. I love getting those Black Cat books, the classic X-Men #8. That book too, just pulled right from my childhood, so I love to add that one. I would say overall a little disappointed with the condition, although, that's one of those things like I was probably having too high expectations that they would have Fantastic Four books from 1977 just sitting in their back issue bin at 9.4. I get that was a little naive on my part, but hey, there was really only one way to find out. Again, this is why I share these sorts of experiences with you, is so that you could see if you go on to G-Mart and you're kind of going through their back issue bins digitally online and you're seeing books and you're like, gosh, these must all be near mint. Probably not the case. I would say that the condition probably scales back with age, as you would typically expect to see maybe at a convention, if there's just sort of bins in front of you, not necessarily wall books. But still, for the price, even though I think technically it was a loss, those FF books, even from the mid-70s, fair market value of around $5 each. I was buying them for $10 each. And it was worth the risk to me just to get them. And a lot of times you do get them with pressable defects. They're not as cherry-picked by the dealers and the collectors that are in person. And it's one of those, it's a constant debate. It's like, well, why don't you go to a show or an LCS to try and find these books there, because then you can look at them? Well, so can everybody else, right? If these books are in a warehouse just sitting there, the folks at G-Mart or any online store, I don't believe they're really combing through the books, and they don't have buyers combing through the books either. They're just warehoused somewhere and organized in a way that as an online order comes in, they just go and they pull them out of the warehouse. And that's where I feel like I can somehow get some books that maybe aren't necessarily in a higher grade than advertised, but books that could be pressed or have those pressable defects where I can improve them beyond the grade that the online seller thought they were in. And so that's why I often prefer to just buy them blindly, is to take that chance. So there you go. That's the order from G-Mart. A great set of comic books. I'm thrilled that they were mailed to me safely and securely without any in-transit damage. So even though maybe the grades or the values of these books, maybe this felt like a break even, I would love nothing more than to grade these myself, catalog them, and get them into my collection. Thank you for watching. Happy collecting, and see you next time.